Positive Anime Reviews is a review show that is designed for people who aren't very picky about their anime, like me. Most anime I watch ends up in my 5 out of 5 category. My reviews are for those people who are looking for a reason to watch anime rather than hate on it. I am willing to give any and all anime a chance before stating my opinion. Lastly, my reviews are all my opinion and might and or most likely won't match yours. If you don't agree, that's totally fine. Just be respectful in the comments section. Thank you. And as always, possible spoiler warning ahead. Hey guys, Darth Glork here, back with another positive anime review. Today we will be talking about, and I'm gonna crush his name, my apologies, Mahou Shoujo Madoka Magica, I think is how you would pronounce that. And that is actually the Japanese name for once. So I realize I probably just slaughtered that name, but the English name is not any easier to pronounce. So I was just like, well, if I can't pronounce either one very well, so I guess we'll just say the Japanese name anyway. Anywho, so of course today we are talking about this anime. So it's been not comparatively, it hasn't been too long since our last positive anime review, but I watched this one rapidly. So this is an anime that I have seen before. I watched it years and years and years ago, a long time ago now, and it was interesting because at the time I gave it a lower score because I didn't like there was things I didn't like about it, and there was all kinds of things that I was upset about. But then on top of that, there was a sequel that I didn't know about. So there is 3 movies. The third movie is a sequel. The first 2 movies are actually just recaps. They're like they just tell the story of the anime. So your 2 options are you can either watch the 3 movies and then you basically watch the anime and then the sequel, or you can watch the anime and then watch the sequel. Now I opted to watch the anime and then watch the third movie, which is the sequel. But anyway, and so but at the time when I watched this anime back in the day, I was a lot younger and I wasn't medicated, and I was probably a teenager, I guess. I was probably a teenager and I was a lot more emotional and there was a lot going on. So my rating was lower, and there was things that bothered me then that after watching it now doesn't seem like nearly as big a deal. And so the rating is much higher than it was then. So I just think that's a little interesting tidbit of information. So as far as when this anime aired, now we'll get to this and then we will mention the movie and stuff closer to the end. But as far as when this anime aired in the winter of 2011. So of course it is not, fresh out the gate or anything, but it is very popular. It's very, very popular and very well known. Now, there is a dub as well. Now, I opted to watch the sub because that's how I roll, but from what I understand, the dub is actually pretty good, and so you're more than welcome to check it out, but I prefer the sub because I prefer almost most anime with sub. So, now as far as this is an original work, according to what I understand, this is an original work and not a manga adaptation, and so it is, so yeah, I don't know, it might be a manga adaptation, and this site I'm reading might be wrong, because that's happened before, so I might be wrong about that, so take that with a grain of salt, but regardless, it was very, very, very popular. This anime got lots of awards, and it did really well for good reason. Anyway, so of course first we will start with the synopsis to further talk about everything so you guys have an easy understanding without me having to ramble on. So, Madoka Kaname and Saika Miki are regular middle school girls with regular lives. But all of that changes when they encounter Kyubei, a cat-like magical familiar, and Homura Akemi, the new transfer student. Kyubei offers them a proposition. He will grant any one of their wishes, and in exchange, they will become a magical girl, gaining enough power to fulfill their dreams. However, Homura Akemi, a magical girl herself, urges them not to accept the offer, stating that everything is not what it seems. A story of hope, despair, and friendship. This anime, I don't want to say the name too many times because I already crushed it, so this anime deals with the difficulties of being a magical girl and the price one has to pay to make a dream come true. So, now you think, oh, it's cute, it's adorable, it's cutesy. Don't be deceived. This is an anime that it's not like incredibly gory or anything, but it's definitely mature. So despite its cutesy sounding synopsis, it is not for children. So the rating that the site gives is a PG-13. I think I totally agree with that. It's not for kids, despite what it sounds like. This anime is a little bit brutal. There is death. There's death, there's tears, there's drama. It's just not what it looks like. So if you are thinking that it is for children, you are wrong. Anyway, so as far as rating, it is pretty clean. Like, as far as gore, like, there is blood and stuff occasionally, but it's really, really, really rare. It's not so much the blood that makes this anime leaning towards an older, slightly older audience. It is the fact that it's a psychological, like, it's like a psychological thriller. Now, it's of course it's a lot of drama with psychological thrown over the top of it, basically. And there's a lot of mature themes that you really have to be older to understand. And even if you are older with the plot, the way things happen with the plot closer to the end, you might be lost anyway. So it is something that you have to be older to even have a shot of understanding, and definitely have to be older to have a shot of appreciating what you're witnessing, because there's a lot of mature stuff that if you were a kid, you probably wouldn't even understand. So that's rating. It's pretty clean. Now, as far as genre, of course, we already mentioned that it is a drama. Now, the genre on the site says psychological drama, magic, and thriller. And now, of course, all those are true, but of course, this anime is very dramatic. It's very, very dramatic. And there is psychological thriller and magic sprinkled over the top of it. Now, I guess there is a lot of magic in it, but there's psychological stuff sprinkled over the top of a lot of drama, essentially. Now, as far as season length goes, it is 12 episodes for the season, and then, of course, there is one movie. Now, again, alternatively, your other option is to watch there is 3 movies total. Your other option is to watch movies 1 and 2, which tell the same story that the anime does. Now, from what I heard mentioned is apparently the 2 movies, they have like a couple of extra scenes, but it didn't seem like that big a deal to me, and so I went ahead and watched the anime because I was already nervous about rewatching something that I didn't give it a great score before, and so I wanted to watch it the same way that I did then. So, now, as far as episode length, the episodes are 24 minutes, exactly what you would expect, and this is another one of those anime that does not have anything after the closing song. So, once the closing song hits, you are more than welcome to leave. There is a preview after the last song, so many anime do that, and I always skip the preview because I'm going to watch the next episode, so I don't need to watch a preview of it. Anyway, so rolling right along here into our characters. Now, our characters are there's not a crazy amount of characters. I will cover the important characters, our main characters, and everybody else will be, everyone else you'll understand as time rolls along. So, hopping into our first character, it is going to be Homura Akemi. Well, actually, let's back up. Our first main character is Madoka Kaname. And so we'll get to her first, because her and Homura, they're like the alpha main characters, so to speak. But, so Madoka. So she is the pink-haired main girl. She's very, very caring, very, very loving. She is a very caring individual, and she just wants people to be happy. She wants people to be safe. She's just the standard good guy. She was exactly what you would expect. She's very sweet, very loving, and the standard good guy. And as the anime develops and as things go on, she proves to be very selfless. And there is a lot of things that she sacrifices and things she does in order to help defend her friends or help people, help take care of her friends and stuff. So basically she proves to be just a really good person in general. And by the end, you're like, oh my gosh, you're such a good person. But but that's basically her in a nutshell. She's not incredibly complicated. She's ultimately a good person, and she proves to be very selfless by the end. And she's very hopeful and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at first, but it doesn't take long before it's very like, I will be a good person despite everything that's happening type of mentality, more or less. So that's basically her in a nutshell. So moving on to our next character, it is Homura Akemi. Now she is the other, like, quote unquote main character in this anime, and because I feel like, and I've mentioned this in other reviews that I've done, that I feel like main character is a spectrum. I feel like that it is a spectrum of how, like, it says main, but main doesn't mean you are about this or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, a main character is kind of a dial and not a switch type of deal. And so I feel like that this anime focuses much more on Madoka and Homura than it does the other quote-unquote main characters. Anyway, so getting on to Homura Akemi. She is the other, whatever, alpha main character, and she is very, very different from Madoka. So at first, in the anime, she's very hardened. She's very hardened, she's very cynical, and kind of uncaring. She, like, is what it appears like. Is what it appears like, is that she's very hardened, and she is hardened. That's not appearances, but the appearance part of it is that she seems uncaring. Now she is, but she doesn't seem like it. And at first she might seem like the standard, like, cold, uncaring character, but then as the anime develops and as things go on, as things get deeper, you actually learn about Homura's backstory and why she is the way she is, and then she develops after that, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm with it now, it makes sense now, and you really feel sorry for her, because she cares for Madoka more than anything else, and all the stuff that she's been through, and I'm not going to tell you what she's been through, because I think it'd be funner for you to just see it, but there was lots of things that she's been through that makes sense that it would harden her, that it would make her kind of a cold individual to a lot of people, and it makes sense why she would only really care for Madoka. So as far as appearance, I forgot to mention that she is the dark-haired, I can't tell if it's black hair, I think she has black hair, character, and yeah, she is very once you learn her backstory, she'll make a lot more sense. Things will get together. Now, as far as the movie is concerned, Homura is pretty much the main character of the movie. And you'll understand why based upon the ending of the anime. Now, I'm not going to tell you the ending of the anime, and I'm going to try and review this anime and the movie without spoiling too much, because there's a lot of things that you're just going to have to see to understand, or even have a shot of understanding. So I'm not going to tell you why, but basically the movie mostly focuses on Homura, and then a lot more becomes there. A lot of stuff happens in that movie. It's really hard to even explain. There's so much that happens. Anyway, so moving on to our next main character, we have Kyoko Sakura. Now, Kyoko Sakura is she might have red hair. Again, colorblind, it's hard for me to tell. I think she has red hair, but she is, at first, in the anime, she looks like a bad guy, and she kind of is in the anime at first, that she has some clashes with the other characters, and she just looks like bad news that we don't need. Now, eventually she actually comes around, so she ends up being part of the main cast, and ends up being part of the good guys. And you're okay with that, because after you learn about her and then she starts changing, you actually really like her. I mean, at least I do. Is that she really came around and she actually becomes really likable, and that was really nice. Now, as far as personality goes, she has that tough, like, you're an idiot exterior. She kind of has a little bit of the tsundere thing going on. But she doesn't stay that way. There is a lot going on underneath, and a lot of it is revealed, and she's not always going straight up tsundere mode. She has a lot of moments that prove that's not all she is, you know what I mean? And she's like always eating. She's always eating all the time. She's like that. She's the character that loves eating. I don't know why. There's usually one in every anime. Well, she's the one in this anime. So moving on to our next character, we have Mami Tomoe. I think is how you pronounce her first name. I think it's Mami. It's M-A-M-I. I think it's Mami is how they pronounced it. Regardless, most people called her Tomoe, so that is much easier to pronounce. Regardless, she is the blonde character, and she's also listed as quote-unquote a main character. Now, she is listed as a main character. Now, in personality, she is like the veteran of all of these main 5 people. She is the veteran of them all. Now, she is, in personality, she's very caring. That she likes a lot of the other girls, and she sees them as friends and stuff, and a lot of things happen, and some of the girls don't like each other, like Mami and, like, Tomoe and Homura really don't like each other, and it'll become a little more apparent why later. It'll make a lot more sense later, and so I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details, but Homura and Tomoe don't really like each other very much, and so it'll become apparent why later and stuff. But regardless, as far as personality, Tomoe is the veteran, and she does care and really happy that she has all of these people that can work with her and fight with her, and she's very lonely, and like deep down that she's been fighting all of these monsters and stuff by herself for a long time, and so it makes sense that she is very lonely, but she's very happy to be developing comrades more or less, and she's very, very happy with that, and so there's not too much to say about her. I mean, that's pretty much it. She's like the older sister character to all these 5 pretty much, and that's pretty much her in a nutshell. So the last of the main 5 magical girls is Sayaka Miki. Now Sayaka is friends with Madoka before they become magical girls. Now Sayaka in personality, she's kind of the goofy one a little bit, especially early on. She's the goofy one, but she rapidly changes, and there's a lot of things that change about her, but I'm not going to tell you all of why and what exactly happens and why she changes and stuff. But it's spoiler territory, and it'll be apparent in time. But Sayaka ultimately is a good person. She is. It's a little hard to describe her without going into spoiler territory, but Sayaka is ultimately a good person. She's friends with Madoka. She's kind of the more or less comic relief. Sayaka and Kyoko at first really fight each other to kill each other, and it's really intense. But after Kyoko comes around and she's more or less, and she's part of like the group and stuff, Sayaka and Kyoko develop a special bond, and they end up being like the closest of close friends. And I was getting some serious Yuri vibes, especially in the movie, from Kyoko and Sayaka. And also on that same topic, Homura and Madoka have some serious Yuri vibes floating around. At least in my head they do. And I feel like it's not just wishful thinking. It really feels like it's really true and accurate. So and looking it up online, I am not the only one that thinks that. It's a lot of people think. A lot of people think that Homura and Madoka have a thing going on, or at least they are, they like each other as more than friends, and that it's and I was thinking Kyoko and Sayaka in the movie, but you'll see why and all that crap and stuff. But yeah, basically, so that's the main 5 of the main magical girls. Now the last character it lists them as a main character, and I guess that's true, is Kyubei. Now Kyubei is that little cat looking thing. Now Kyubei is the one that grants these people wishes and makes them into magical girls and stuff. A lot develops about Kyubei, and I'm not gonna go into it, because if I go into it at all, it'll spoil a lot. So suffice it to say, Kyubei is not all that it seems, and you should stick around. So yeah, Kyubei is that little cat looking thing. And then there's several side characters, but there's not too much. There's not too many supporting characters. So, but yeah, and as usual, we usually just hit the our main characters, and that's usually all we hit, and this will be no different. Now, moving into our next section, it'll be favorite / most hated characters. Favorite characters? My favorite character is Homura. Homura Akemi is my favorite character of all of them. And as far as most hated, there wasn't really anybody that I hated. Well, I guess most hated is Kyubei. I hate Kyubei, and you'll see why, and you'll watch and all that jazz, but I hate Kyubei a lot. My favorite is Homura for sure, and that's just the long and short of it. So moving on to our next section of animation and music. So the animation is a different style. It's not like it's very interesting. So these magical girls, they fight these monsters called witches, and these witches, they kill people, and they're bad news. So witches, whenever witches are on screen, they have this like unique art style where things are kind of like painted, like legit painted, and it's vastly different from the rest of the animation of the anime. It's way different looking. Now, it's cool. It's cool to watch. It's very, very artistic, and it's really cool to watch. So I'm okay with all of that. It makes it easy to distinguish when witches are around or when some funny business is happening, because of course all of this art creeps onto the screen and you're like, this is not the same, what's happening? So yeah, they have this unique, like very much like a watercolor painted art style, which is very, very different. Now the rest of the anime is really, really, it's pretty. It's all very, very pretty. It all kind of has a little bit of a more of a I'm trying to like think of comparisons. It's very pretty to look at. It's very pretty to look at. It feels like it's all kind of painted to some degree, and it's really, really pretty. Now the music is also really, really good in this anime. There were several times where the music hits and it's really, really fun. The opening song is really good, and the closing is both really good. Their opening and closing really match what's going on, and the music is awesome. The animation's really cool, especially the animation of the witches and stuff of when they're on screen. Lots of cool stuff there, and it's fun. And so moving on into our final rating and recommendation. So I'm going to give the rating of the movie and the anime separately because they have different scores, that's not the first time I've done that system, so that's not that surprising. So we'll touch on those, and I'll tell you why I did that, and I will try to avoid spoilers while still telling you what I think. So final rating for the anime. Our final rating for the anime is going to be very good, 5 out of 5. This anime made no mistakes worth noting and is definitely worth a buy. That is the rating for the anime, of 5 out of 5. The rating for the movie is a 4 out of 5. Not bad. This anime was mostly really good with only 1 or 2 things that bothered me, but it's still worth a buy. So here's why. So originally, years and years ago, when I watched the anime, I gave the anime a 4 out of 5, and I didn't know the movie existed. Now I see why I thought that, but I'm a much different person than I was I'm a very different person these days than I was when I watched this anime the first time, and my thoughts are way different. What bothered me then doesn't really bother me now. And I'm a lot less sensitive. So there are things that I see why I didn't like it originally, but there's also a lot that they said which made it okay. The ending, it can be perceived as sad. I would encourage you to listen to the dialogue, because one of the characters about things that happen is very positive. Very positive. It's very much, it'll be okay, don't worry. And so if you listen to what that character says, you're like, oh wait, actually, okay, I see. It is a good ending. So it's not like the, happily ever after sunshine and rainbows ending, but considering the, what might have happened, it's a pretty sweet ending. And it was very positive. There was some sad things about it, but there were a lot of really good things that it was enough to turn it around to make you feel positive overall about the ending. Now, the reason that the movie got what it did. Now, this is actually another interesting one, because last night I gave the movie a 3 out of 5 because there was things I did not like. But I always wait at least one day before I do my anime review, because often I will think about what I watched for like a day afterward. I'll think about it a lot, and I will rerun through things that happened. And then once the initial emotion of like WTF cools off, you really can, more of from a third-person standpoint, look back at what you saw and really decide, does this really bother me? Is this as bad as it seemed? And all of that. Now, so today, thinking about it most of the night, and as I was doing other things today, I was like, you know what? It's really not that bad. There are things I liked. And so I actually bumped it up to a 4 out of 5. Because it's not as bad as a 3 out of 5. It's not. And there was things I didn't like there was things I was confused about last night. So the first disclaimer we have to talk about the movie, and again, I'm not going to get into actual spoilers. But a big thing you have to notice is there's a lot that happens in the movie. There was a lot that was very confusing. On purpose, and this doesn't feel like that big of a spoiler. It might be a spoiler. So if you're worried about it, slight kind of sort of spoiler alert, okay? So the movie, some animes give you a concise ending. They're like, the end, this is it, happily ever after. Some animes are very much a little more open-ended, so it leaves it open because then it's kind of up for you to decide. Now, the problem, and there is pros and cons to that system. The pros of having an open-ended style is the writers don't have to commit to writing, to making an ending that some people are going to hate. If they leave it open enough that everyone gets some kind of satisfaction, then your head can make up the ending you want, and you can think about what you saw, and you can decide what you think will happen. That's the bonus. Now, the con is some animes feel like they need a specified set ending, and some don't. This is one of the animes where it's borderline, it needed a concise ending. There is so much that happens in the movie that you're like, wait, what? And it's like layers of craziness. It just gets more and more complicated. Now, there are things that I liked about the ending. There's things that I liked what they did. And last night, it didn't seem like it outweighed what they did wrong. Today, now that I'm cooled off and thinking about it, it does seem like it outweighs it. There was a lot that I liked about the movie. There was a twist that I won't get into. There was a twist in the movie that I did not see coming. And it was kind of fun. It was really cool to see how it happened. It certainly wasn't what you expected, but it was cool to see how it happened nonetheless. And it wasn't that bad. It still could be set up for positivity, more or less. It still could be set up for people to have good endings and live happily ever afters and stuff. It's not the way we all thought it would happen, but it's still 100% possible that it all ends up okay. There are things about it that I didn't like. There is some things some characters said that I didn't love, and sometimes a lot of the lack of explanation, or a couple of sentences sprinkled over so much that wasn't enough to explain it. That kind of bothers me, that it was so little explanation over the whole movie that you were really, really like battling to keep up. And after the movie was over, it was one of those where I had to go and Google it. I'm like, please someone explain this. And I watched it, and a site I read recapped it, like more or less what happens, and then they explain like the possibilities of what it could mean and all that jazz. And I liked their insight, and because of reading that site, I'm like, okay, I see now, or whatever. And it's open-ended enough that you can decide what happens for you. There are things about it enough that I didn't like, but not enough to dip the score to 3 out of 5 when I'm not pissed off about it. After the initial emotion, once you get past that and you just can like stand back and look at it, there was more bad than good. There was a lot about it that I did like. There was a twist with some characters that I didn't see coming, that I liked the direction they threw that in. And so, it would be really cool to see a sequel. This anime is incredibly popular. It won lots of awards and stuff. And so, although it was like 8 years ago now from the original anime, I don't know when the movie aired. We can go ahead and check really quick. The movie aired in 2013. So, it's been a long time since the movie, too. And this is the third movie. The third movie is the sequel. Now, the movie aired in 2013, so that's still been a long time ago. So, I don't know if we'll ever see it again. I would love that, but it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't see anything again. But regardless, it was good enough. Both of them are worth owning. They're both really good, both really well made. There was some decisions I wouldn't have made. That's the reason the movie got a slightly lower score. But there was a lot that was redeemable and enough to give it a pretty good score. So that's ultimately what I decided. But regardless, that is going to call it for this one. Right after this, I will be recording the next part of our Trooper playthrough, and I am feeling much better today. And so I am almost positive it will be a regular part. Now, naturally, I didn't level last night, but I was leveled enough to be on the planet anyway, and it'll be enough to get through our part without worries, so it's not that bad. It's not the end of the world. My new editing style worked great yesterday, and that's really what I was worried about. That was one of my biggest concerns, was the new editing style made me nervous about making so many cuts, but after last night, after test driving it, it's not that bad. It's totally doable, and it's worth it to have a better balance to audio and stuff. So anyway, so it's not that bad. So I'm assuming today will be much more regular, and I hope you guys are looking forward to that. Anyway, that is going to call it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the content today, and we will talk to you guys later.